Con más de 50 libros escritos a fin de ayudar a las personas a vivir mejor y a conservar su salud, el comunicador, escritor, conferencista y médico Deepak Chopra ofrece en su última publicación titulada Supergenes una serie de teorías que cambian la forma de percibir los genes como los dueños absolutos de nuestro destino. En el desarrollo de la obra, Deepak Chopra y el neurogenetista Rudy Tanzi dejan ver cómo nuestra dieta, estilo de vida, nuestros pensamientos e incluso nuestro microbioma influyen para bien o para mal en todos los aspectos de nuestra vida. De esta manera, ambos autores nos ayudan a percibir que si adaptamos nuestro estilo de vida a actividades positivas, podemos maximizar el potencial de trascender las susceptibilidades heredadas por nuestros padres. Además, nos da el poder para convertirnos en los dueños de nuestro destino, en lugar de ser solo víctimas de nuestra herencia genética. Con esta nueva experiencia, Deepak Chopra abre un nuevo camino para difundir la ciencia de la vida, la Ayurveda, un sistema médico tradicional de la India que integra mente, cuerpo y espíritu como un todo. Y así podemos buscar el equilibrio integral en el hombre. Deepak Chopra es escritor, conferencista, comunicador, médico y director fundador del Centro Chopra para el Bienestar y del Instituto Médico Mente-Cuerpo en California, Estados Unidos. Deepak Chopra, quien fue calificado por la revista Time como el profeta de la medicina alternativa, también es autor de más de 40 videos y CDs, que han tenido ventas por más de 20 millones de copias. Hoy, Deepak Chopra es nuestro invitado en La Era de las Definiciones.
Hola, ¿qué tal, amigas y amigos? Nuevamente sorpresa, aunque ya estuvo con nosotros en otra ocasión, pero él tiene tantos mensajes tan profundos y fue tan exitoso el programa que ya hicimos con él, me refiero a Deepak Chopra, que lo queremos repetir, queremos traer más de estos mensajes espirituales profundos, de well-being, de estar bien con nosotros mismos, de no pensar solo en cuánto negocio puedo hacer, cuánto ingreso puedo tener, sino cómo camino hacia la felicidad, ojalá de manera acelerada. Entonces, creo que hoy va a ser otra gran experiencia con Deepak aquí con ustedes. Deepak, good night. Great to be with us again.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I know you have a lot of new things that you have done in the last year. And new books, new success stories, and please share them with us. Start with the news that you have throughout this late year.
Well, for the last 3 years, we've been looking at how the human biological system responds to experience, something that I've been talking about for the last 30 years. Every experience you have, right, this experience, or people who are watching us, they're having an experience. Every experience actually modifies the neural networks of our brain. And not only modifies the neural networks of our brain, it activates our genes as well. Every experience. So if you're, for example, you have the experience of fear, then that will generate cortisol in your bloodstream, adrenaline, it will cause inflammation in your body, etc. The key thing here to understand, which actually is part of the wisdom traditions of the world, is that there is no such thing as a separate mind. The separate mind doesn't exist. Right now, the mind exists only in relationship. So the mind is embodied, it's in the body, but it's also relational. And now those people who are watching us, their minds are entangled with our minds. Mm-hmm. But if something happens in the mind, it also happens in the brain, it also happens in the genes. So there's no such thing as a separate mind, there's no such thing as a separate body. In the deeper domains of nature, we are part of one body. in the deeper domains of nature, we are part of one mind. There's no such thing as a separate being. When we realize that, we have glimpses of that, only glimpses of that when we feel love or compassion or joy or equanimity, when we feel passionate, when we are moved by beauty or truth or goodness or harmony or even music and poetry. We have glimpses of what is called unity consciousness.
Also for the bad things like anger.
Absolutely. So the anger in you and me affects everybody in the world. Okay. Of course, now because we have a global brain, literally, this is a global brain. People are watching us on the internet, everywhere else. You have a neural network which is connecting all the brains, all the bodies, all the minds in the world, and more so. But even without that, at the deepest level, it's already connected. Okay, but with this, it gets accelerated. So, this is a new book I have. It's called Super Genes. And this is about the human genome, which is very interesting. You have 23,000 genes, human genes, in your body, which make your body. When we were conceived, there were only 23,000 genes. But at the moment of birth, as we came out of the mother's birth canal, and we inhaled the world, and we made contact in the world, then the entire ecosystem of the world that we were born in, it got embedded in our body. It's called the microbiome. So for 23,000 genes we have 3.3 million bacterial genes. Okay, so and these interact with us, our human genome, and then there's something called the epigenome, which is a sheath of proteins outside the gene that actually responds to your emotions, to your desires, to your feelings, to your personal relationships, to your social interactions, to your professional relations, to every experience. So now we have a very interesting complex. The reason I'm calling this super gene is your genome, it's the epigenome, it's the microbiome. What is it? It is the whole planet, okay, right here. And then the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen that makes up that whole planet comes from the stars. So the carbon in your body, the oxygen, the nitrogen, it was manufactured in different galaxies. In fact, the carbon here and the hydrogen here may come from two different galaxies, okay, going all the way to the Big Bang. So what is this? This is the entire universe.
But is this material, physical, what you're saying? Even the connection of the brain with the body and aspiring all this that you're telling us, it's physical.
It's right now the physical expression of the total universe. The total universe, all the energy, all the dark matter, dark energy, all the elements and forces, gravity, electromagnetic forces, strong and weak interactions of the total universe are represented here.
This means that then we're Superman?
We
inhaling and getting nourished with all of this makes us with great capacities.
Yeah, well, what unfolds that capacity is self-awareness. If you're not self-aware, then you are like a giant sleeping. If you're not self-aware, you are an embryo. But when you unlock self-awareness and see that the whole universe exists inside you, you don't exist in the universe exists in you. You don't exist in the body exists in you. You don't exist in the mind exists in you. The entire universe is coming out of you, which is not a person. What you is a field of awareness in which you experience the person as well. So what you call this person, this is a fluctuation of energy and information that is constantly changing from eternity. What you really are is the awareness in which the person arises, subsides, and in which the whole universe arises, subsides.
To understand better, describe awareness.
Awareness.
How become aware,
okay,
how we have awareness.
Okay, awareness is fundamental. It's the same thing as consciousness. So in every experience you have, this experience and they are having an experience, you need consciousness. You cannot have an experience without consciousness. Where is consciousness? You know, when I say, okay, I ask somebody, where are you? They say, I'm here. Okay, they say, where is the other? They say, it's there. I is the most common word in any language, I. Who do I mean by? Not Deepak Chopra, because Deepak Chopra is an assumed identity. Okay, writer, author, father, etc. What is behind the assumed identity is awareness or consciousness. What we in Eastern wisdom traditions we call pure consciousness. So pure consciousness, conscienza pura. Okay, this is a field of infinite possibilities. This is a field of infinite creativity. This is a field of infinite potential. When a child is born, that's what it is. It has no idea.
Not even a name yet.
Not even a name. It has no idea I'm Vicente or Paul or whatever. It also has no idea that there is a universe. Okay, what it is experiencing is pure consciousness, and in that pure consciousness it's experiencing sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, not out there, but in itself.
Before talking, before walking.
Before talking,
you start all of this process.
Yeah, before the conditioning, before talking, before walking, what it's experiencing is itself as awareness, as consciousness. And it's not experiencing a world out there. It's experiencing in itself sensations, images, colors, sounds, textures, smells. Okay, then I come along and say, hey, you know, your name is Vicente. That's a tree. That's a cloud. That's a galaxy. So suddenly everything that was inside is objectified as outside. Our goal is now to go back to the source. Now that pure consciousness in Catholic traditions might be called the Holy Ghost, or it may be called the Spirit.
The soul.
The soul is your individual part of that consciousness. It's like the drop in the ocean of consciousness. But the drop also contains the ocean. The ocean is in the drop. So this is your connection to what we call cosmic consciousness, God, infinite mind, infinite spirit, whatever you call it. The reason this book is important is we now have shown in the lab. You know, my author is Rudy Tanzi, who's a neurogeneticist at Harvard. Next year, you should have him here. He's the #1 neurogeneticist in the world. And what he's saying is, what we have shown in the lab is that when you get in touch with this part of your being, or when you feel what is called Platonic qualities after Plato, truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, evolution, creativity, imagination, insight, intuition, or love, or compassion, or joy, or profound peace, or loss of the fear of death, this transcendent experience, it changes your genes. It changes your body.
This, I'm going to call it discovery, because at least it's discovery for me, all what you're saying, and I'm sure for most of our audiences, is discovery. This discovery comes from profound thinkers and wisdom from the past, some of them expressed in religions or expressed in philosophy, and others is an accumulation of that, and then combined with, I'm saying you're a doctor.
I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist, yes.
This wonderful, this dreamed world that you have described, that certainly is possible, though there is a lot of skepticism because things don't seem to be running well worldwide. This world that you described of harmony, happiness, peace, is it really possible this is going to happen? Because we seem to go on the wrong direction. According to many people, a lot of skepticism I pick up in universities and whenever I go to conferences, there's not a very strong belief that the world is on the right direction.
Well, I would say we are at a crossroads. I'll tell you why we are at a crossroads. If you look at the history of human experience. We started as hunter-gatherers, okay, tribal chief, bows and arrows, and you go for the hunt, you bring the food home, you're killed, and so the only way to survive is through fight or flight. Then we have the age of agriculture suddenly, and it starts with people beginning to grow plants, flowers, but even food in the earth. But the old fight-flight doesn't go away. The economy shifts, but the mind is still in the fight-flight response. Then we have the age of industry. Okay, so in the age of the first age, you might say the tribal age, it's all violence. In the agricultural age, believe it or not, the violence is a little less, but there's still violence, but now the survival does not depend only on violence. Then we have the industrial age, and you see how the resources shift. Now suddenly you have oil, you have minerals, you have things coming from the earth to make machines. And now, of course, there's the birth of what we call civilization, but there's still violence because we now know how to make better weapons with the thing. And that is still there. The primitive mind is still there. But the resources and the abilities have shifted. And then follows what we call the information age. Suddenly, the source of wealth, not so much is, as we move into the future, it's not going to be oil, it's not going to be, minerals. It will be, but not to the same extent. The source of wealth is a microchip. Okay, what is a microchip? It's information in a piece of dust. Okay, so the emerging economies are now all information economies.
La era de la información es el periodo de la historia de la humanidad que, de acuerdo con los teóricos, va ligado a las tecnologías de la información y a la comunicación. El inicio de este periodo ocurrió durante la revolución digital, aunque tiene sus antecedentes en tecnologías como el teléfono, la radio o la televisión, que hicieron que el flujo de información se volviese más rápido que el movimiento físico. Otros especialistas aseguran que esta era tuvo su impulso en el siglo XIX, con la aparición de la prensa escrita y la comunicación por cable, telégrafo y teléfono, seguidos en el siglo XX por la aparición de los medios de comunicación y finalmente de la informática e Internet, que propiciaron una sociedad basada en el conocimiento. Hoy en día, casi cualquier persona en el mundo tiene la posibilidad de acceder a la información, siendo posible guardarla en múltiples soportes y de diferentes formas como textos, imágenes y sonidos. De esta manera, en la era de la información se privilegia los datos y encontrarlos o generarlos adecuadamente y a tiempo proporciona una ventaja sobre los demás. Paralelamente, plataformas como el Internet hacen más fácil compartir los contenidos, dando pie a nuevas ideas y prácticas como la llamada revolución del conocimiento libre.
If we stop here, we are doomed, okay? Because information is not knowledge, and knowledge is not wisdom. How can we take what we have now, which is all the information we need? I can get more information in 5 minutes from the internet than it would have required me through all the encyclopedias of the world, okay? And we are generating more information. But how do I use this to create knowledge that sustains the planet, that creates clean energy, that gets rid of war? Because right now we have mechanized death. We have drones, we have atom bombs, and it's taken us away from our most precious feelings. Some of these people who operate drones, they sit in a computer room, they press buttons, many people are killed, they take a cigarette break, have coffee, go home and sleep peacefully at night, not knowing the damage they have created. So in a way, technology has also separated us from our humanity. If we have the wisdom right now to take the technology to the level of knowledge and knowledge to the level of wisdom, wisdom is that knowledge which nourishes life. If we can take that, we have the resources right this moment through technology to create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier and happier world.
And this process to reach wisdom, does that mean that wisdom is only for doing good things, for building that world of peace, harmony? Wisdom has the single and only attribute of the positive?
Wisdom has the only attribute of truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, and
so wisdom is not for wars. It's not for
no. That
for
could be knowledge.
dictatorship.
That could be knowledge, but it's not wisdom. You know, so in the past you've had luminaries, from Plato to Pythagoras to Aristotle to you name it. The great luminaries that gave birth to Western civilization in the ancient city of Athens. But then you had the luminaries in the Far East, Buddha, Lao Tzu, the sages, the seers of the Upanishads. And we need to now recognize what they knew and the insight they had is available to everyone. You don't need to go to the Parthenon or the ancient libraries of Alexandria to get that. You can get that in 5 minutes. But the only way to do that is through personal and social transformation. There is no social transformation in the absence of personal transformation. You can be a peace activist and still be very angry. In fact, I know a lot of angry Nobel peace activists. Okay, they won the Nobel Prize, but they have no peace in their heart. So peace can only be created by those who are peaceful. Love can only be shown by those who have loved. And I think if we just make this our goal, service and love in action, we have all the resources, we have all the technology.
If we reach that stage of extended wisdom among the 8 billion people that we have, would that be nirvana? Would that be that world? But how do we get there? Because church, for instance, Catholic Church, Pope Francis, which I admire, same as you, in Catholic Church, we're not listening anymore about the devil and hell and those bad things that used to be opposite to being a good person. If you're a bad person, you go to hell. The devil is advising you and is moving you. I think now we're expanding here the wisdom and forgetting about those maybe obstacles to reach that heaven that you're talking about.
Yes, and you don't need 8 billion people to do that. You need a critical mass, which means that we don't know what that critical mass is. It could be 10% or even less.
Opinion leaders. Maybe.
Opinion leaders, also people who are themselves embodiments of the change they want to see in the world. As Mahatma Gandhi said, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. So earlier we said there's no such thing as a separate mind, there's no such thing as a separate body, but there's no such thing as a separate consciousness. When you have a critical mass of people in that state of consciousness, then the world will transform, because the world as we see it is a projection of our collective consciousness. And our world leaders, by the way, are symbolic embodiments of that collective consciousness. So you need visionary leaders like yourself, like Oscar Arias, and some people like that who have that vision.
We have to accept, at least materialistically, that in recent years, maybe a couple of decades, poverty has been reduced significantly.
Very significant.
Middle classes have grown.
Right.
Would that be part of that process in moving into, although it's only material, but that could take more people to school, take more people to think about this great other things of the spirit, of the soul, of, as you said, of the mind, whether progress bring an accelerator to this process?
Yes, it will, but we have to be mindful that progress has to be holistic and not merely economic. You can have great economic progress in countries that have tyrant leaders, that have despots. The GDP keeps going up, but the people's life hasn't changed. So as we look at well-being in society or in business or in a community, these are the different areas we need to focus on. The first is people's jobs and careers. If you look across the world, first of all, there's still a lot of unemployment.
La Organización Internacional del Trabajo, la OIT, prevé un fuerte incremento del desempleo durante el presente año y el 2017, en particular en países emergentes y en desarrollo. De acuerdo con el informe Perspectivas Sociales y del Empleo en el Mundo, Tendencias 2016, el año pasado estuvieron desempleadas 197.1 millones de personas, lo que significa 27 millones más que el nivel anterior de la crisis de 2007. Y para 2016 está previsto que aumente alrededor de 2.3 millones, para situarse en 199.4 millones. El escenario no es nada alentador, porque se estima que 1.1 millones de desempleados se sumarán a la cifra en 2017, de acuerdo con dicho informe. El director general de la OIT, Guy Ryder, indicó que la desaceleración de las economías emergentes, junto a una drástica disminución de los precios de las materias primas, tiene un efecto negativo sobre el mundo del trabajo. Agregó además que la inestabilidad del contexto económico, asociada con la volatilidad de los flujos de capital, la persistente disfunción de los mercados financieros y la insuficiente demanda mundial, siguen afectando a las empresas y desincentivan las inversiones y la creación de empleo. La OIT reconoce que si bien se ha registrado una disminución en las tasas de pobreza, la tasa de descenso del número de trabajadores pobres en las economías en desarrollo se ha ralentizado y el empleo vulnerable aún representa más del 46% del total de empleo a nivel mundial, afectando alrededor de 1.500 millones de personas.
But of those who are employed, only 20% are engaged, which means they come to work looking forward to doing their work, they have some passion for their work, they get some enjoyment. The rest are coming in to get paid because that's what they need to survive. In the US alone, disengaged workers account for $300 billion of lost economy. How do we engage people? Not only get them jobs. Well, first of all, you have to find out what they're passionate about, what do they like to do. You have to create teams where they complement each other's strengths. You have to have some emotional connection between these people, and you have to have a vision. Without that, there is no real career. I think if your job, your career, and your higher calling are in alignment, you're unstoppable. Okay, so this is one thing. We have to really focus on how to create team leadership. There is thought leadership, there's team leadership, there's market leadership. Now, sometimes what people do is they only focus on market leadership, which means how can I be the best company in the world in terms of economics? Okay, and that is not going to work. You need thought leadership, you need market leadership, and you need, as I said, team leadership.
And those are components of this first
well-being, career
door to well-being.
Yeah, well. The second component is social well-being. So in many countries, including the US, where people are very successful, they have kind of disengaged from family and friends, which is, as I said, which is a great source of nourishment for our bodies. So when we ask people, do you have people in your life that you share love with? It's the most important thing. That will support you, that you will support, And if you can't say yes to that, then you're in trouble. Okay? And that's happening in some societies. Social leadership, you might say your ecosystem of love, compassion, joy that you get from family, friends, and companions. The third area, actually the third area in terms of importance, is community well-being. So community well-being, do you volunteer? Do you have a vision for your community? Do your children have good education? Can you afford that education for your children? Does the community in turn take care of you? And do you feel safe in your community? These are very important questions. So that's the third area.
In that one setting, because I think it's extremely important for Latin America, Mexico, to build this sense of community, this community well-being where you're going to benefit still, although family is very, very, family culture and creation is very strong in Mexico, still in the community.
Right.
I see like every family moves on their own individually.
Right.
As
No,
you said,
in a
service and
community,
volunteerism doesn't exist in Mexico.
There are three things that make a healthy community. One is meeting. You know, you have to meet physically. The second
That's
is...
not happening in many of our
you
communities.
have to make, well, that's
So you provoke that.
You provoke that. You create community centers where people can meet and they can share about what is happening in the community, how to improve the community. So physical meeting, virtual communities. I'll show you today some technologies that we can create virtual communities that somehow, they don't replace the physical community, but they actually accelerate the unfoldment or development of the physical community. The third thing is some kind of service which is not personal gain, volunteering. And the third is a common, shared, emotional, spiritual vision. Because without that, the community is bankrupt. So, you know, we have in where I come from, we have three words for this. Seva, which means service. Simran, remembering your spiritual nature. And satsang, coming together.
Where do you get that? I mean, in the school, in the family, or in the gatherings, physical gatherings of the community? Because
it's in the gathering. It's called satsang. But you can create these, then you can create these also online, virtually, and then you can feed back to the physical communities. We are creating some technology for this, which I'd like to show.
We go to a break and we come right back. Deepak, you're telling us about these 5 components of reaching or accessing to well-being. So,
okay, by the way, these 5 components correlate with everything that happens in a society. Traffic accidents, hospital admissions, crime rate, social arrest or unrest, quality of leadership are all connected to what I'm saying to you right now. The first was career, the second was social, the third was community. The fourth is physical well-being. It comes 4 in order of importance in terms of society's progress. And physical well-being means, do you have enough energy every day to get all the things you want to do? That's the one question we ask, just one question. But based on that, we find there are 5 or 6 components. Sleep is one, stress management is another. In my case,
how much you have to sleep?
Well, ideally speaking, between 6 to 8 hours of good sleep.
Okay. So you have to get rid of all your tensions, problems, stress to sleep well.
Sleep well. So stress management, in my case, I'm a big promoter of yoga and meditation and breathing exercise. We have a lot of research how that changes the brain and the genetic expression of the body.
Do you do that massively? You promote that, or you have
Yes.
to go
Massively.
for 3 days and isolate yourself?
No, massively. With Oprah Winfrey, we have taught 5 million people to meditate online.
And where we can see that?
On the internet, Chopra Center meditation.com, and if you want, Chopra Center meditation espanol.com. We have it in, yes.
Good news.
Yes, and it's free.
Free, right?
Free of charge.
Keep going.
Okay, so that is the second. The third is movement. You don't have to go to the gym, you don't have to lift weights. If you just walk every day, 10,000 steps, according to all the research in the American Heart Association, and I walk 10,000 steps, I have a monitor, you will
So
be very
10,000.
Yeah, which is about...
Sometime I heard about 3,000. 10,000, which would be
which is
around
about
7 kilometers
6.5 to 7 kilometers. Yeah, 7 kilometers.
every day.
Little less than 5.
Walk,
Yeah.
tranquilo.
Yeah, you will be, you know, if you do all this, what I'm saying, and just let me finish, healthy emotions, no anger, no hostility, no resentment, no grievances, just be loving and compassionate, and food which is not contaminated with poison, which means petroleum products. Most of the food, industrial food production right now is going in the direction of petroleum products in the food to preserve them, insecticides, pesticides. So there's a big movement for natural organic food that comes directly from the farm to the table. Also animals which have not been fed steroids or antibiotics or chemicals, because ultimately it recycles. Those are the most important components of physical well-being. Now, given what we know, only 5% of what are called disease-related gene mutations are fully penetrant, which means they are unstoppable, for which we will need to make drugs in the future. Only 5%. 95% of the gene mutations that occur, that cause disease, including cancer, are environmentally acquired. Okay, so we have to be very aware of that. Okay, so that's physical well-being. The last is financial well-being. Now, this is a very important part, of course, of our well-being, but here's what we find in our research. Those people we qualify as financially healthy are not necessarily the richest people in the world. And of course, they're not the poor people of the world. If you're poor, you're going to be unhealthy. There's no question about it, okay? Because you don't have enough money to fulfill your needs. If you're very rich, that doesn't guarantee health or well-being as well. In fact, a lot of people, one thing that very poor people and very rich people share is they think about money all the time. It's a stress for them. So if money is a stress for you, then you're not financially healthy. What we find is very interesting. If you ask a person, are you happy in your neighborhood? You have a house that's worth $75,000. I can move you to a house which is worth $300,000, but other people, their house is worth $500,000. Person doesn't want to move because they want to live in a place where they feel they are equal or on par or better than others. So financial well-being is a psychological thing. The most important ingredients for financial well-being is job security, insurance, retirement, ability to take a vacation at least once a year, and not having to worry about money all the time. It is an important component, but I think it has to be put on perspective that there are some people who make money to make money to make money, and they have never time to actually even enjoy the money they're making, because their only goal is to use the money to make more money. And then in the end they are sick, and then they have to spend the money to get better. So it's a paradox. I think these 5 buckets are very important for the well-being of a society, for a nation. And actually today I will show you a chart of 180 countries where they fall in this well-being, because if I was a leader of a community or a country or a global leader, that's what I would focus on. I would say, this is what I focus on, and if I can give my people these different expressions of well-being, I can create both the perception and the hope. You know, that's another thing. We ask people, qualify, can you tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how happy you are with your life? Simple question. Okay. And if you're 7, you're pretty good.
If you're happy, you have a high rank of well-being?
Yes, there's some correlation. Some correlation.
Yeah.
Not 100%. But here's what is even more important. Tell me how satisfied you are, not even happy, how satisfied you are with your life today, and what do you think you will be 5 years from now? That gives me a measure of hope. Yeah. So if somebody says, I'm today 6, but 5 years from now I'll still be 6, or I'll be 5, that is a measure of hopelessness. And when people lose hope, that's the worst thing that can happen.
I know you have some statistics. You work close with Gallup.
Yeah, I'm a scientist.
Specialized.
But now we are also developing a well-being index independent of Gallup, which is driven by data. Sleep, blood pressure, heart rate, gene expression, inflammation. And once you have this index, this should be what leaders should use to see if they're doing a good job.
But my question goes around on that statistic of that ranking of nations in relation to well-being. I think you mentioned last night that Mexico is better in well-being than United States, and
in
we're
some
only
aspects.
10% of the per capita.
Yeah, in some aspects. I'll show you the data.
Okay.
Okay, I'll show you the data today. I will have it sent. But yes, in some aspects. But you know who is doing really well?
Yes.
Are Costa Rica, Panama. Panama is way ahead of the United States.
Good. And it's not, they're still far away from the per capita income of the United States.
Yes, but you know,
far
it's a
away,
small
but
country.
Okay.
That makes a difference too.
Okay.
Well, after this book, I'm doing another book with a physicist. It's called Creative Cosmos. And the two most important questions in science today are what is the nature of the universe? And number 2, what is the nature of consciousness? These are two more important questions. Believe it or not, with all the science and technology we have, there's no idea of what the universe is made of, because 96% of the universe is invisible. It's dark energy, dark matter. 4% is atomic, of which 99.9% is invisible interstellar dust. The visible universe, with the hundreds of billions of galaxies, actually billions and billions of stars and planetary systems, is 0.01%. And this is atomic, but atoms are made of particles, and particles are made of waves, and waves are made of nothing. So we don't know what the universe is made of, number 1. Number 2, we don't know what is the source of consciousness. How do we know that we exist? What is the source of thought, imagination, intention, creativity? Science has no answers. So I'm writing a book with a physicist right now, and the fundamental premise of this book is actually everything is consciousness. There's nothing else. The mind is made of consciousness. Physical matter is made of consciousness. There's no such thing as matter. It's an experience in consciousness. It'll be a very big book for me, and it'll be probably my most important book.
Great. I think when we cannot sleep because we're recycling the problems of the day, the stress of the day, I have my set of Deepak's books. I just take them, and in half an hour, I'm sleeping. And it takes me out of the problems, out of what we had that day or what we're expecting next day. For instance, yesterday I couldn't sleep because although we subscribed those 1,500 people coming here,
yes.
I wanted to see them here because sometimes they don't appear.
Yes.
So that had me without sleeping. So I got your book, read a little bit, and in half an hour I was sleeping again to come here.
Yeah,
thank you very much, Deepak.
Yeah, thank you.
As always,
Thank you,
my
Mr.
admiration,
President.
my respect, and I'm sure all the audience will benefit from your thinking. And read the books, go to the webpage, and we will be
And check
happier.
out Chopra Center Meditation Espanol.com.
Eso. Muy bien.
Thank you,
Gracias,
sir.
señor.
Thank you.